Following the American Civil War, during the era known as Reconstruction, African American men were granted the right to vote for the very first time. As a result, 16 African Americans were elected to serve in Congress. Before racist Jim Crow laws passed in some southern states silenced the African American voice once again.
Too many Americans take for granted the right to vote and don't understand that unless we fight for the right to vote, unless we try to include as many people as possible, our democracy is put at risk.
The history of America has been defined by a struggle over who should and who should not have the right to vote. So why is voting important? Why do people protest for it, go to jail for it, even die for it?
If the power of the right to vote was truly made available, it would change the future of this nation.
The Constitution gives the citizens of America the right to vote, but each state has autonomy to decide the rules around who does and doesn't get to cast a ballot. Is it what the Founding Fathers intended?
When we started as a country, it wasn't really anything like what we would consider a democracy. Only white men who owned property had the right to vote.
Women, slaves, and indigenous people were excluded from participating in the democratic process. It took the pioneering efforts of female activists to bring about change.
The first great protest march on the nation's capital ever was for the right to vote for women.
Despite protests from those in the anti-suffrage movement, many of whom were women, in 1920, the 19th Amendment made it illegal to deny the vote to anyone on the basis of sex. Yet barriers remained for women of color. The 2008 presidential election saw a surge in voter participation among Black, Hispanic, Asian, and young voters that resulted in the first Black president elected to the office not once, but twice. And then a record number of women were elected to serve in the House of Representatives during the 2018 midterm elections. But many Americans are still ineligible to vote in some or all elections, including some people formerly convicted of federal crimes.
If you believe in one person, one vote, if you believe in representative government, then you will fight for this democracy.
How do the actions of the past impact the present? And why do we make progress in the fight for voting rights, then take huge steps backwards?